Welcome to Drunk Athlete, the podcast where we sit down with everyday athletes over a few beverages and talk about the trials, tribulations, and glory of their favorite subject, their sport, and themselves. Hosted by Big Pistachio's own Coach Aaron Truslow.
All right, I am here with the famous Paul Terranova. How are you, Paul?
I'm fantastic, Aaron.
How are you? You good? You good?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Paul, what are we drinking today?
We are drinking Kentucky Straight Bourbon. What could be better on a Sunday afternoon, right?
I know. So you are the first guest who has requested bourbon. I'm very excited about that.
Yes.
I was just kind of like waiting patiently for somebody to ask for something other than like beer or wine. I have had one person do gin, maybe another person do like a vodka martini, but nobody has straight up said bourbon.
Bourbon.
Just flat out. So cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to the bourbon.
Have to stay true. I was born in Tennessee, so
there you go.
Even though not Kentucky, but lived there for about 5 years and then grew up on the East Coast. But it's good to have some bourbon.
Some bourbon. And we've got a little ice on it, so it's,
yeah.
Because it's warm out. It is warm. It's Austin. It's
Good
June.
sipping drink.
Now, I didn't really think that bourbon would be, refreshing on a 100-degree day, but it's not bad.
All right.
It's not bad. It's good. And somebody may need to peel me off the floor before we're done with this today. I'll do my best to
Gin you can save
together
for weddings or other events like that. Good gin and tonic.
Yeah.
Right, with a lime.
Right. So are you a connoisseur of your bourbons, being from Tennessee?
I like a good bourbon, but I'm not a collector.
Okay.
If that's what you're asking.
Well, yeah, I guess some people could be like a collector or, like a wine connoisseur. There's got to be like bourbon connoisseurs.
I did read that Des Linden, Boston Marathon winner, is she and her husband are bourbon connoisseurs and collectors and drinkers.
So, yeah. So, perfect. So, if I drink more bourbon, I could win the Boston Marathon? Is that, I heard you say that. That's how that works?
If that's what you want to believe. Absolutely.
Perfect. Okay, so you touched on it. You were raised in Tennessee, or
born in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. It was south of Nashville. And my dad was working for GE at the time, but they have East Coast roots, and all my cousins and aunts and uncles were in either Long Island or Connecticut. So we moved to New Jersey when I was about 5. My sister was 3. And my mom says I was starting to get a little Tennessee twang, hanging out with my friend Trey at preschool or whatever grade I was in. And she said, we got to get the kids back to the East Coast.
So you could sound like a New Yorker instead?
But it somewhat neutralized whatever Southern accent I was developing, that people really don't think I have a Jersey accent.
No, you don't.
Right. So not a typical New Jersey accent.
No, you not at all.
But I wasn't born in Texas, but I got here as fast as I could.
I feel the same
As the
way.
bumper sticker says.
Yes. When was that then?
Well, not until I graduated college, and I did Army ROTC.
Okay.
So my first duty station after the officer basic course at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri was Fort Hood, Texas, which is up and clean, so just about an hour up the road from Austin. So that was my first taste of Texas. That was the winter of 95, and I was at Fort Hood from 95 to 99.
Okay.
So, yeah, we spent many weekends coming down to 6th Street and, and partaking of all the fun and going down to South Padre Island and having fun there. And, yeah, it was great.
Tell me, what was your position in the Army?
So I was a combat engineer and did my platoon leader time and executive officer time in the 299th Engineer Battalion. So part of the 4th Infantry Division.
Wow.
At Fort Hood.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was really fun. And at the time, we were developing and testing a lot of the Force 21 initiative, which was the digital battlefield, which I think we take for granted today when we see all of the video feeds and electronics that all feed into the command center, and you can see all of this data coming in. And so we were at the cutting edge of testing that and really getting it to a point where it could be fielded force wide.
Yeah.
So we were, at the time, the 1st Brigade Combat Team was shielded from the Bosnias and the Kosovo deployments that were going on at the time, because we had to reorganize into these different units and fielded all this special equipment and computers and GPS units and radios and put new batteries on our vehicles and all of that. So we didn't do all of those deployments, but we did go to the field a lot and out to the National Training Center in Fort Irwin, California.
Oh, wow.
So did that, and that was really great.
Wow.
Had a great time, and both personally and professionally, and did some running there. I think I ran my first marathon in 1995 in St. Louis.
Okay, so you must have been just wrapping up then.
So that was at during the officer basic course.
Okay.
Which was at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri in Rolla, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours from St. Louis.
Okay.
And met up with a couple of my classmates, and we decided to run a marathon, train for it, and ran it. It was called the Deaconess St. Louis Marathon. And Deaconess was the healthcare, whatever the big healthcare insurance provider was
like
at the
Aetna
time.
Or something would be now.
Yeah,
right?
they were the title sponsor, and had a great first marathon. And then at Fort Hood, I think I ran the Awesome Marathon maybe once, and maybe did the half marathon a couple times, and then just stayed in shape doing Army stuff. Just stayed in shape.
Just doing Army stuff. So, because of your time at Fort Hood, that you obviously fell in love with Austin. Did you stay here from that point on, or did you ever go leave and come back?
No, I left. So went back to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri for the Officer Advanced course as a captain, and then grad school at University of Missouri at Rolla. So the Army put us through grad school there. And then a short 6 weeks training at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas.
Okay.
And then Ranger School, and then Fort Bragg, North Carolina. So, moved then to the East Coast and took all my stuff with me. And then I got out in 2001 and moved to Houston. So
Why Houston?
Well, at the time I had a girlfriend who was
crazy things for the opposite sex now.
Right. Yeah. And shortly after moving and doing all that, relationship totally dissolves. You're like, what the heck just happened? Right? I'm out of the Army, broke it up. I'm in Houston, civilian job, having fun, but I'm like, how'd that all happen?
Yeah, whoops.
But 9/11 had just happened. I was actually picking up my orders to get off of active duty the morning of 9/11. So you get your orders and all hell's breaking loose, and you're like, well, either it's meant to be, I'm meant to go one way and get out, or if they're going to keep me, they're going to keep me.
Right.
But it took a little while for us as a country and as a military to figure out what our next steps were. And I still had a 1.5-year commitment, because I had an 8-year commitment coming out of college, and I'd already served 6.5 active, so I was on individual ready reserve.
Okay.
So not reserves, but then there's a third level where they can call you up, and everything was good. So, and never got called up, and then 8 years in, I think I resigned my commission. You have to formally resign and say, all right, I'm totally done and out.
After 8 years of not doing anything, I imagine you're like, maybe I should call it.
And by that time I had met Meredith in Houston, and we were dating and on the path to getting engaged and then married and moving to Austin, and so that was the right time to do that.
To start something new.
Yes. Yeah, no doubt.
Okay, so for the millions of fans that listen to this podcast, Okay, maybe not millions, but we're getting there.
Soon to be millions.
We're getting there. You are, well, you're what, a 4 or 5 time Kona finisher, Ironman Kona finisher.
Three time.
3-time.
3-time Ironman Hawaii.
Okay, Ironman Hawaii. So how many Ironman have you done?
That's a good question.
I love that when you can't.
You
done
have to
so many
count.
you can't.
No, I really haven't done that many. But let's see, Coeur d'Alene was my first one.
Okay.
And Hawaii was my second one.
So you qualified
at Buffalo Springs in 2005.
For Hawaii.
Right?
That's back when they were doing that.
Back when you could qualify at a half.
Yeah.
And then I qualified at Arizona in 2008 for the 2009 race.
Okay, yep.
And then Ironman Cozumel in 2011 for the 2012 race.
Okay. All right. So
6.
Basically, every Ironman you did, you qualified for Kona. What?
I've got a pretty good streak going. And really the only reason I did Cozumel was because Meredith wanted to finally dip her toe into the Ironman world, and if she was going to do it and we were going to bring a bike box, we might as well borrow a double bike box, and both of us should do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and we're going to get to the fact that you're a crazy ultra runner also. But how did you get into, you said you did your first marathon in the Army, but how did you get to triathlon then?
Oh, that's a good question. So when I was in the Army at Fort Bragg, a classmate of mine was into triathlon, and I joined him on a couple bike rides and a couple swims, and never did a triathlon, but knew I was a pretty decent runner and a pretty decent athlete, and always wanted to get into triathlon at some point. That it was something that, yeah, I think I can do that, because I swam growing up, not competitively lap swimming, but swimming in the ocean and boogie boarding and playing in the waves and water skiing. So I was always in the water a lot, not swimming laps.
Yeah, just fucking around in the water. You weren't actually swimming against other people.
No.
And
No.
Okay.
No, but I could get in, and
you could do it.
I could do it.
You could figure it out.
I just had to start training, and
okay.
I did start training in Houston, and that's actually how Meredith and I met, at the Evergreen Pool in Bel Air. So Bel Air is a little subset of Houston just inside the 610 loop, and I could ride my bike or jog over to the pool and swim my laps, and Meredith lived nearby as well, and that's how we met. I was training for my first triathlon, the Cinco Ranch Sprint Triathlon in Katy, Texas.
Nice. Did you win that one too?
I did not. The best I can say about that race is I left T2 and I realized that I left my number and my race belt in transition, and I ran back, left T2 and then ran back to go get it, and then continued on.
Okay.
But it was good. I had fun.
At least you knew as a newbie to have a race belt, though.
Yes, I do.
You must have had somebody coaching you.
I did. One of my college teammates, my rowing teammates, Kendall Wu, he lived in Houston at the time. He now lives in the Bay Area, but he was a triathlete. And so I picked his brain for every little nugget. And then triathlon actually connected me with a high school friend. He was maybe 4 or 5 years older than me in New Jersey at Christian Brothers Academy, Peter Carton, and he lived in Houston at the time. He lives in Dallas now, and I met him, and so picked his brain, picked Kendall's brain for as much information as I could get.
Nice.
To try and...
Sounds like you went into your first race kind of prepared, which is good.
Yes.
Yeah. Forgetful, but prepared.
Right. I don't think I've ever made that mistake again.
No, of course not. Which is if you're going to make it on those first ones. So cool. So Meredith was, you guys met at the pool. She was just stalking you, watching you go back and forth to the pool.
She was checking me out in my Speedo, no doubt.
She's not here, so she can't defend herself, so that's fine.
She's still in her phone, that my number is listed as Poolman Paul, or maybe just Poolman, because she just knew Poolman because that's how we met.
That's
and
hilarious.
Maybe she didn't even know my name, which is fine.
Poolman Paul. It's close enough.
Right.
It's good. It's good. Okay. So clearly you're very successful at triathlon. And I remember you from all the local triathlons here, doing all the high five events. And,
Yes.
I believe you're on the Jack and Adams team for a while there too, right? Doing all the local stuff.
Yeah, the move here to Austin certainly jump-started the triathlon career, I guess you'd say, that without the move here for Meredith to go to grad school, we would have still been in Houston, I suppose. So that was really the driving force for us to get here, get married, and get settled and immerse myself in the triathlon community and Meredith in the trail running community, because that's what she was doing at the time.
Yeah. So she was running trail.
Yes.
Okay, you guys are crazy. All right.
I have her to thank for getting me into trail running.
Yeah, there you go. So, and then you answered that question is like, why did you get back to Austin? And it was for Meredith's school.
Yes.
Which she is a nutritionist now. So
she
she's
is.
a great nutrition company, and I actually refer my athletes all to her.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, she's the one. I don't even try to pretend to know anything about nutrition. I'm like, no, you have questions about nutrition? Here's Meredith's phone number. Call her.
Thank you.
She's the one to talk to. So she was trail running, and you were trying to get her into Ironman. So you guys were
not necessarily. I was not trying to pull her into it.
She went willingly.
Okay, right. Good. She always said, but she had done some sprints and some half Ironmans. We used to do the Tall Texan together in Bernie. That was one of our favorite trips to do, either from Houston or from Austin, to go there and do the Tall Texan triathlon in Bernie. And she did some of the high five events, the Rookie and Jack's Generic as well, but never an Ironman. She said, no, I'm more of a trail runner. I don't really want to do that. Until one day she did. And then it happened.
Then you change your mind.
And then you want to do it where it's warm and the water is great, and Cozumel is a great place to swim and race. And right by that time, we had already been to Hawaii twice for me to race.
Right.
And she had gotten involved with Collins Hope. Swimming. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So had been doing some long distance, or starting to do some longer distance swimming. So she really, and Collins Hope, for those that don't know, helps prevent childhood drowning, which is the number one cause of death for kids under 5.
Yes, and we interviewed Alyssa Magram.
Yes.
Just a couple, 10 episodes ago, maybe? Something like that, maybe 15 episodes ago. So dial back, find it. It's a great episode.
Wonderful. Yeah. And
I might actually be
their cause is amazing.
I might be doing the swim this year. If I can't run and ride a bike, I might as well just swim.
Yes.
I might as well swim. So we can do that. So, so she was doing a lot of that. But, so how did that bring you to trail running?
So she was certainly on the Western States path, right? She had raced. Actually, she had put in for the 2004 lottery, but then realized that I had signed up for Ironman Coeur d'Alene, which was going to be my first Ironman. So she pulled her name out of the lottery because she didn't want the decision of, if I get in, I'm going to have to, decline my spot so I can go support Paul at his first Ironman. So I have her to thank for that. But then she got in 2006 and 2007 and learned some really good lessons there, and DNF both of those. So we learned quite a bit as a team at Western States. And then 2008 was the fire year, so there was no race in 2008. She didn't go in 2009, but then got back into the lottery in 2010 and finished in sub 24 hours, had a great race. And that was her capstone trail running experience to date, was going sub 24 hours at Western States. Okay. And so at the end of that was her hanging up right, her long distance trail running shoes, so to speak, and gave me the green light, so to speak, to start dabbling in longer distances of trail running. And I think to that point, maybe I had done a 50K and maybe a 50 miler.
Okay.
But certainly I had wanted to start doing some longer.
Yeah. Did you guys ever train together? Do you train together?
Typically not. Okay. So we learned, particularly in those years, 2006, 2007, when she was training for Western States pretty hardcore, and I was training for whatever triathlon was going on, to really not do things at the same time.
Okay.
So we learned as a couple to spread our efforts and our energies out throughout the year, or take turns.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
One year alternate. Right.
This is a question I ask my married guests who have spouses that compete also. It's always, do you train together? Is it I go, you go? And so it sounds like it's I go, you go, and I'm going to support you on your year. Correct. And she's going to support you on your year or race period. So you guys figured out not to basically cross race periods?
Yes.
Or do you say,
that seems to work best?
Or do you pick a whole year, like this is my year?
No, it's worked well now, where we definitely have our own A races each year, but they are at different periods of the year. So they're not at the same time.
Okay.
So we're not simultaneously competing for the same resources, the same energy, emotional energy and support from each other.
Okay. So, would you consider doing the same race?
Other than Cozumel, right? I think we made that exception for Cozumel because it was going to be her first Ironman. Okay. And she was really just doing it for fun, just to have a good experience and enjoy it.
Okay. So you raced that also.
We did together.
Okay. So as her first one, she decided she didn't need you on the sidelines cheering, that you could actually race.
Yes.
And it would be
absolutely
still be fine.
And the 3-loop course, right? You have the 3-loop bike course. So you see, did I see her on the bike? Maybe I saw her once. And certainly on the run, I forget if it was a 2 or 3 loop out and back a couple different times.
I love those courses.
Yeah. And it rained, right, Cozumel that year. I know it rained on the bike at least once, and then the second half of the marathon just poured buckets. So you were running in puddles and ankle deep water, and it was great.
Sounds horrible.
No, it was great.
You're like, it's Cozumel.
Super
It can't
fun.
be that bad. It can't be that bad. Okay, so that's great that you guys. And how do you decide? Do you have a family meeting and talk about, okay, this is what I'd like to do next. What would you like to do next? How are we going to do this? Or does it kind of just come up?
Good negotiating. Good negotiating. Well, as of late, right, Meredith's been on the Ultraman train, so to speak, and when your wife says, hey, I want to spend Thanksgiving in Hawaii, can you really say no? No, you really can't say no. You say, as long as your family's good with us being away for Thanksgiving, then I'm fine with that too.
Okay. So being away, so Ultraman. Okay, well, I need to talk to
you. Can have her.
Yeah, clearly I need to have a conversation with her about that. That's Ultraman's insane. But yeah, she definitely do it. So all this ultra long endurance fitness. Did you know that you had that all the time? That was always there. That running these distances, riding these distances, was going to be. I hate to say the word easy for you, but definitely in your wheelhouse. Like you knew that was going to be your specialty.
I had a feeling that, knowing at the time, right, I had done well at Ironman, and those races, for me, 9-10 hours or so, and being out on the race course at Western States, and for Meredith at Rocky Raccoon, and seeing and observing, right, those trail runners that were at the front of the pack, that, hey, right, I could dip my toe in this and potentially compete with them. So I did have a good feeling about it that I could do well.
Yeah. Man.
And being on your feet, right? I had been on my feet in the Army, and whether with a rucksack on your back or just in the field for hours or days, right, day after day in the field, that, yes, things seem to get stronger, right, the longer that you were out there.
Yeah.
Right, and the mental, fortitude and tenacity that it takes to just keep grinding and keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
And have a smile on your face no matter how miserable you feel. It's a special kind of suffering.
Yeah, no, it's a special kind of dark place that you're gonna go to to get through all that. That is a special kind of dark place. So, okay, there's so many questions.
And I'm gonna crack open one of these Waterloo sparkling water, black cherry.
Crack away. Don't forget, we have more bourbon.
We do.
Here.
I know.
We have a lot more bourbon here.
Also have to hydrate.
I know. So you're still a working athlete. So with all of your sliding back just a little bit to triathlon and Ironmans, because you did so well in those, because you kept qualifying, and it sounds like you did well in Hawaii also, did you ever think about becoming a pro triathlete?
In the back of my mind, maybe, but my performances at Hawaii were I never podiumed, and I was never top 5 in my age group there. And so that was the sign that, all right, you're a good triathlete, you're a good age grouper, you're a 3-time Kona qualifier, but right, you're certainly not good enough to go pro or to win your age group out there. And so I think that also motivated me to, hey, let me see what else is out there. Where else can I apply my talents to something a little bit different?
Okay. And are you also working full-time while you're doing all this training?
Yes. So
that's
my civilian career had been in the toll road industry, so construction management of the toll roads in Houston and then in Austin.
Okay.
Helping build the State Highway 130, the bypass around Austin, and stayed on that consulting side of civil engineering, transportation, mostly on toll roads. So yes, I was working 40-hour a week jobs, and the balance that provides is good. And I think that professionally, those projects, they take multiple years, if not decades, some of them. And so that development period can be so glacially slow that it's nice to have the balance of athletics that can be very discrete, 6-month cycles, a year, maybe even less of, all right, I'm going to set this goal. I'm going to make a plan to get there, train, do some train up races, and then go race. And that can happen multiple times a year.
Yeah.
Whereas projects, they can take 4 or 5 years, and
those damn tollways take forever. But I'm always grateful when I'm on them.
But you're always grateful, and people pay for it.
Right? Oh, I pay a lot for it.
Yeah, but less, right? And I told this to a friend yesterday that we've been getting over easy because the gas tax, or the motor fuels tax, as they call it, at both the federal and the state level, has not been indexed or changed for over 20 years. So we've been getting over easy for more than 2 decades. So we're definitely underpaying when it comes to paying for our fuel that then helps pay for the roads that we use out there.
And I'm always shocked at you watch your gas tank, the fuel, the prices on your local corner gas station go up and go down, go up and go down. But every time I fly somewhere else, I'm like, holy shit, we don't pay much at all. Texas is awesome.
You go to California or go to the East Coast, and
California
you're
sucks.
$5 a gallon, $4 or $5 a gallon.
It's like, oh man,
easy.
And now here I am bitching at like $2, $2.20. Like, oh.
And really, collectively, if you add up all the gas that you spend throughout the year, compared to our total expenditure, it's typically not that much.
No.
right, in the grand scheme of things compared to everything else, whether it's housing, food, yeah, recreation, right? Our gas costs are relatively low unless you're alcohol, unless you're on the road quite a bit for work.
Yeah. Crazy. Okay, so full-time job, training like a madman. Okay, so to finish that thought, that the balance of not just the balance of the projects, but that I've always said that working keeps me from overtraining, training keeps me from overworking, that there's a symbiotic relationship between the two. As much as I'd like to just train and race all the time and not work or not need to work, that there is a healthy balance and a healthy tension between the two that keep both in balance. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I'm thankful for both. Right, thankful for the pursuit of athletics to get me outside and do those things and exercise, because that makes me better at work, and then also for the balance that work provides of you don't have all day to go run and bike or swim, and you can easily burn yourself out.
So do the people at your work know what you do?
Oh yeah.
Are you that weird guy in the back corner office that runs, swims, and bikes? And
how many miles did you run today?
Like, what did you do? Yeah, I'm sure that's the talk around the water cooler. Like, all right, Paul, how far did you run this weekend?
And I'm totally fine with that.
That's cool.
I'm totally fine with it.
I know. In most offices, it's like the person who works out a lot is just kind of like the joke around the office, because they're just like, okay, what? That's crazy.
I try not to bring my smelly clothes to work, so just put those in a plastic bag and leave them in the car.
A shelf of awards.
No.
Yeah, no, not at work. Not at work.
Not at work.
Not at work. Okay, so that's probably a good thing. It's a really good thing. All right, so I want to talk more, and we're gonna take a quick break, but I want to talk more.
Time flies. We're
about
having fun.
I know about you being the Kona Grand Slam champion, or is it Grand Slam Kona champion?
Grand Kona Slam.
Grand Kona Slam.
That's what we called it.
There you go.
Yeah, 2012. Best summer of my life so far.
So far?
So far.
We're going to talk about it, but are you ever going to do that again?
Oh, yeah, we'll talk about, hopefully, what is to come.
Okay.
God willing.
Well, as soon as we come back, we'll talk about what that actually is, and then we'll talk about the races individually that got you there.
Yeah, right on.
Awesome. Today's episode is proudly sponsored by the Austin Trail Running Company, located in Austin, Texas, and online at austintrailrunning.com. All right, we're back.
We're
back. We've got more about a bourbon, a little bit more water, so we're good. We're set. A couple snacks. That is an old school Think Sport bottle.
You like that? It's been it's got some miles on it. Thanks to Kevin for durable. It takes a lick and keeps on ticking.
I was like, that, either it's seen some spectacular things or it's just an old.
It's well traveled.
Bottle.
This is my travel one. Typically, it resides in Meredith's vehicle, because that's normally what we take to the airport. And normally we're gone about once a month to travel to a race or somewhere, and so it's in there. So then I take it with me on our travels, so it has many miles on it.
If that water bottle can talk.
If that water bottle can talk. And their sunscreen, right? Think Sport sunscreen, fantastic.
Yeah.
You must protect your skin from the sun.
Yeah, and it's great stuff.
It is.
Local. Local.
And now deodorant and skincare products and yoga mats.
Do they sponsor you?
They are very supportive of us.
There you go. Perfect. Because I know you're a sponsored athlete on top of everything. Yes. So, and we can talk about that later. I mean, we all love our sponsors. Sponsors are awesome.
No doubt.
We can't do what we do without them. So that's really good. All right. So the Grand Kona Slam. It's like a meal at Denny's.
2012. 2012. I was a first-time lottery entrant into Western States, and Right, I did Ironman Cozumel 2011, which was Thanksgiving weekend 2011, November.
Okay.
So I had punched my ticket to Hawaii for 2012 already. And then that following weekend was a lottery for Western States, and I got in. And we have friends who had done the Grand Slam of ultra running.
Now that's an actual thing.
That is an actual thing.
Okay.
That's for the oldest 100-milers in the U.S., Western States, Vermont 100, Leadville 100, and then Wasatch Front 100.
Okay.
So that's called the modern day Grand Slam of ultra running, is those 4 hundreds in one summer. So typically it's about 11 weeks, right, from beginning to end of those. And the fact that I qualified for Hawaii meant that, hey, 5 weeks after Wasatch, I could also do the Ironman World Championships. So why not do all of those in one summer?
Why say no to anything?
Why say no? And Western States was going to be my first 100-miler, by the way. Up to that point, I had only done a 50-miler.
Okay, so what was your first 50-miler?
My first 50-miler was supposed to be Lake Sonoma 50, but it got flooded out. That was the year that it got flooded out.
Okay.
So it ended up being Hells Hills 50 out at Rocky Hill Ranch.
Local.
So here in Texas.
Yeah.
And then my first 100K was Bandera 100K in January 2012.
Okay, so those
very steep
hard
progression to 100-milers.
Yes. Okay. So, yeah, progression. So watching Meredith trail run and do these ultra races, you decided, I want to do that too. And I want to run 100 miles.
And prior to that, hi, Meredith.
Hi,
and she's back from rollerblading.
Yay.
Yay.
Come on and have a seat.
She survived. Have a seat.
So, okay, so you decide you want to run 100 miles.
Yes.
And not only do you want to run 100 miles, you want to do it 4 times in 1 year. Okay.
In 11 weeks, the span of 11 weeks to do all 4. Pretty ambitious. And yeah, most people...
Do you have a coach?
At that time, no. Self-coached and largely just doing my typical triathlon training and then doing some trail running on the side.
Okay.
And yeah, doing some extra mileage and some hill repeats and things like that. Yeah.
My brain
crazy,
just,
right?
My brain just exploded a little bit.
It was ambitious, totally ambitious, but that was the best part of it. Was that Meredith was on board. We had friends that had slammed and loved it, and so we learned from them, and just the idea of putting together this great summer from end of June all the way through October was intriguing to us. And traveling to, I think Meredith had already been to Leadville a couple times to pace and crew. We had already been to Western States multiple times to pace and crew, and for her to race as well. The year before, I helped pace Ian Sharman to 10th place at Western States, so I had some personal experience, not just crewing, but also running on the course for it. So I knew what I was getting into. I didn't, and your first 100-miler or your first experience at any distance, I think typically can be way more than you think it's going to be. And certainly for me, that first 100-miler was humbling. Yeah. That, wow, my legs really hurt more than I ever
that hurt
thought.
a little bit.
That hurt.
Okay, so let's talk about that first 100-miler.
Yes.
What did the training look like? You decide, okay, so you get in, you win the lottery, and are you like, oh crap, now I gotta train? Or were you just like,
yeah, super excited,
it's on.
Right? It's on. It's December, and all right, sign up for Bandera 100K, do Bandera 100K. Take a little time off after that, but then spin things up in the spring. And I know for sure I did Quad Rock 50-miler in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Okay.
And maybe I did some other races, Hell's Hills, some local one. Did the Rogue Trail Series.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, right, the 30Ks. So get some heat training, things like that. But nothing really prepares you for that first 100-mile experience.
Yeah.
Other than doing it.
So
right.
what
And did training camp out there, but it was relatively cool out there. And I think that there was still some snow up high. So got as many miles as I could.
So was it just a lot of miles every week? I know in Austin we have a ton of trails. Was it just going out and running every inch of every trail on the weekends?
A lot of trails and hill repeats.
Okay.
Right, trying to get as much vertical as you can. We're not blessed with long climbs and long descents.
No.
So you really have to maximize your up and down, up and down, up and down,
Okay.
all of that, and do as much heat training. But 2012 was a relatively cold year for Western states.
Okay.
So the heat training really didn't benefit me. But hey, I got it done, and that was really the goal. Was hey, get the first one done. Then 3 weeks later, you got Vermont 100. Yeah, get ready for that.
Okay, so you crossed. What do you remember your time for that first race?
20 hours and change.
Okay. Do you feel good about that?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I
'Cause
was
you crossed. Hello, 20
crossed.
hours.
My legs hurt. I know I got sick on the drive back to Lee and Sarah's place, which is where we stayed. So yeah, I definitely felt, and I tell people today that running your first 100-miler feels like a combination of you're in a car crash, you're hungover, and you just pulled a all-nighter, all in one. But that can sum up the experiences.
After or during?
Just combined all together. That's how it feels.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to be training somebody for their first 100-miler.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, which one?
Yeah. She hasn't picked it yet.
Oh.
So I mean, we've done the 30K, the 50K, and the 50-miler.
Okay.
And so now we're gonna build up from there.
All right.
So as soon as she picks the 100-miler.
Yeah, mountain 100 or relatively flat.
I think she wants to do it close to home.
Okay. And home is here.
Yeah.
All right.
So we'll find
So maybe
something.
Rocky Raccoon or Brazos Bend.
Yeah. Close to home.
Okay.
So then she can have family there and everything. So we'll be training for that. Training her for her first 50-miler was a lot of fun. She did great. She actually killed it.
Good.
I think she was 4th or 5th female. So she did really well.
Nice. Which 50-miler?
It was not Bandera, but the one before that. So I want to say out at Rocky Hill. Is there a 50-miler out there? I can't remember the name of it now.
The one at Rocky Hill is later.
Later.
Yeah.
I'll remember it
Okay.
after the podcast. Damn bourbon.
All right.
Right now she's listening, yelling at me which one it was.
How could you forget?
How could you forget the name?
race that you coach me?
I know. I forget things like that all the time. Okay, so hungover, car wreck, all-nighter. Got it. How much time did you give yourself off before you started up again?
Started doing what again? Running?
Running again.
It took me a good
you had
week and
another
a
race in
half.
three
Right, it
weeks,
took me
right?
a good week and a half to start moving on my feet, but some easy swimming, some easy cycling.
Okay.
So
And
it
because
was
you're
a
a
good
triathlete,
relationship, and
yeah.
knowing that, hey, I've got Ironman World Championships at the end of the summer, that you've got motivation to get in the pool and get on the bike. So that one aided in recovery,
Yeah.
but then also helped keep the fitness going for Ironman in October.
Yeah, because during all these 100-milers, you have to train for your top end speed for
Correct.
Kona. So, how many other ultra trail racers bike and swim? Or do you feel like that is something that you've got that's extra special?
No, there are some out there that have found trail running after triathlon. Right, Bob Shebest, one of my Hoka teammates, he's a 4-time, I think 4 or maybe 5-time Ironman triathlon world championship finisher. Lee McKinley, who I mentioned, has done Kona 2 or 3 times as well. He lives in the Bay Area and just was 10th at San Diego 100. Okay. And there's others. I know that there's a Graham Cooper, right? Western States winner, is a multi Ironman Kona finisher, and he's won his age group at many Ironmans and keeps going. And now I think his daughter is getting into it, so he's in the Bay Area as well. So there's no shortage. Now I do know that there is a woman in California who attempted the Grand Kona Slam herself a couple years ago, and unfortunately suffered, I think, a broken leg or a broken foot at Wasatch, and was not able to complete that. So that's unfortunate.
Are you still the only person to complete it?
As far as I know, yes.
Nice. Good job.
Thank you.
Good job. All right. So second race comes up 3 weeks after your first 100-miler. It takes you a week and a half to get on your feet again, basically. Fortunately, you have the swimming and the biking background that you can, like, okay, I'm going to do that. How did that second race go?
It went well. My first race in Hokas, because after that first race, I said, whoa, I need something.
You need something different.
Something different than what I just ran in. And my legs hurt from the start, right? And the cool thing about Vermont, too, is that you're out there running with the horses as well. So the genesis or the origin of 100-milers is the Tevis Cup horse ride from Squaw Valley to Auburn. So that's where Western States draws its lineage from the Tevis Cup. And Vermont also has a horse ride, 100-mile endurance horse ride.
Oh, wow.
And you share some of the same course, but not all of it. But just the fact that the horses are out there and the riders are out there as well is really special.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic.
Something to keep you occupied, too?
Yes.
Something to think about?
Yes.
Okay.
And the legs hurt the whole way. A lot of it's some gravel road and some ups and downs, and people think Vermont can be relatively flat, but you get a lot of climbing packed into 100-milers. And Meredith and my pacer, Glenn Redpath, kept me going the whole way.
So that's what's nice about some of these trail races, is that you can have somebody pace you through.
Yes.
Is it through the whole thing or through different sections? Or dark sections?
Some races, like typically somewhere after 50 milers.
Okay.
After 50 miles.
You can have somebody.
They'll let you, right.
Otherwise,
or
you
just
crazy.
whatever aid station is closer.
Okay. So you just pick them up at an aid station and, how you doing? Okay, let's go.
That's right.
That's kind of thing. Here's some pickle juice. Let's go.
Here's some pickle juice. At Vermont, my parents were taking care of my sister's kids. So the grandkids were with them, and they came out to cheer me on. And I was ahead of my splits pretty much the whole day. And so they would get to an aid station and miss me and not be able to cheer. And so then they'd go to the next one and miss me. And then they go to the hotel and swim in the pool and then come back. And finally Meredith said, just go to the finish. Just be there at the finish. And they were, and they had signs and Uncle Paul. Yeah, it was great.
It's hard when
and
you're...
they were exhausted.
Yeah.
Right? 'Cause they've been chasing me around all day.
We keep missing him, damn it. He's too fast. So what was your time on that second race? First race was about 20 hours. Second race was, we're looking at Meredith. Do you remember?
16.
Yeah, in that range.
16 hours?
16:04.
It was good. I was competitive. Running with Rod Bean and Mike LaRue. So another guy who was doing the Grand Slam, Mike LaRue, who Ultraman world champion in 2010 or 2011 time frame, and coached Meredith for her first Ultraman. So and second. So it was good. There was some good rivalry and going back and forth and camaraderie and competition. So yeah, nothing better than that.
But you shave like four
yes.
or 5 hours off your... That's huge.
That was a good confidence builder to be running
how
and
tired
keep
and
moving.
sore you were going into it.
And my legs hurt the whole day, no doubt.
Just, of
but
course.
it never got worse. So once you realize that hey, your legs hurt, but they're not going to get any worse.
Deal with it.
Just keep going.
So how long between a race number 2 and race number 3?
That was 4 weeks between Vermont and Leadville 100.
Okay.
So
Leadville.
a little bit more time to do some more swimming, do some more biking, and then some running.
Yeah. Do you go to elevation?
We went maybe a week before to get up there in advance of it and do some hiking and get up to Hope Pass. And
did you feel any difference? Did the altitude have any effect on you?
I was very respective of the altitude, and I don't think it hit me until race day on the way back.
But that's not why your stomach ate too much.
Oh, yeah.
Before that fall.
I definitely ate too much on the way back. After Hope Pass, coming into Twin Lakes, probably took that descent a little too fast coming into Twin Lakes, and then took on probably too many calories early on and had a little stomach reset. As they say.
That is a nice way to say it.
Yeah, nice way to say it. And puke and rally.
Somebody.
Keep going. So, yeah, but you get it done and you keep moving. And so that's a good thing to get the third one done, because then it's 4 weeks to Wasatch Front in Utah.
So then are you doing the same training, the same type of program between each race? Are you saying, okay, that worked, this didn't work, let's change that? Or are you basically just repeating?
Repeating.
Okay.
Right, reset, right, unpack, repack, make minor adjustments here and there, but generally keep the same protocol going forward and, right, recover and show up as fresh as possible.
How long did it take you to get the nutrition part down? Knowing that you live with your nutritionist and she knows everything about you, how long did that take? Because I'm sure that's hard for a lot of athletes to figure out.
After he didn't listen to me at Western, I went off with, things didn't work out, and I'm just going to talk.
We can,
Hopefully,
yeah, it'll pick
can
you
you
up.
pick her up?
Yeah, it should pick her up.
He didn't.
Now the real story comes.
I left instructions, so I was facing somebody else at Western, and I thought that they would be closer together. He would be in front, but turns out she ended up in front of him. And before I left with her, I said, give him some pizza, some soda, and some Tylenol, and send him on his way. And
change shoes.
And change
shoes.
And he did nothing.
None of that.
I think I had pizza. I had a bite of pizza.
He didn't do anything. And so I got up to the next climb, and I saw his sister who was crying for him, and I said, okay, so how's he feeling? She's like, oh, he's totally... I said, so he did all those things? She's like, no. And I said, well, why didn't you make him do all those things? So the nutrition rules and beyond were, one, I was going to stay with him throughout the races. Crew, and not leave it to somebody else.
Yeah, at that point.
And because it was too significant, because things could have really unraveled.
Yeah.
And then 2, we were going to dial in the plan that worked more solid for him, which was closer to his Ironman plan. Mm-hmm. For him, that cycling liquid nutrition. Yeah. And once he kind of was like, yeah, that works for me, and I feel good with doing that, he really designs his own plan, and then I just look at them for every race.
Nice, because you've got it now.
He knows.
And with the Ironman background, you kind of know what works for, but that's like 10 hours. Now we're doubling that, right?
But the principles are still the same.
Yeah.
But you have to remember, when he did Ironman, he was racing Ironman, so the intensity was so much higher.
A lot higher.
And to dial that down to 100 miler, it's like, well, you could eat that forever.
100 miles is so much easier than 140.6.
No.
I'm kidding. We're all laughing here. They're like, no.
Yeah, which 100 miler are you gonna do?
Yeah,
I can't wait after your knee surgery.
After my knee surgery, I'm signing up right away.
All right.
Yeah, I'll have bionic knees by then. But no, okay, so yeah, it's so interesting about how all the pieces have to work to make all this happen, right? So, and we're still talking about that year 2012. So after the fourth. What was your fourth 100 miler?
Right, Wasatch.
What was
I
your
think it was
time on
eighth.
Eighth. So you're getting better and better through each 100 mile?
Stronger. Finished great there, and it was fantastic, right? Because that's a true mountain 100 arguably one of the hardest ones of the summer, and loved it.
So you show up at your first 100 miler, nobody knows who you are. By the time you show up to your fourth 100 miler, are people going, "Oh damn, Paul's here"?
Well, I had certainly
coach.
not. Yeah,
Jason Coop.
right. Yeah, so my coach now, Jason Coop, he was also doing Wasatch that year, and we knew of him. We knew he was from Texas. He had done Leadville.
We both passed him at Leadville.
And he got a little bit lost at Wasatch and was having a little bit of a pity party on the side of the trail because he couldn't figure out which way to go. And
with like 8 to 10 miles to go.
Right.
We're not talking about
total pity party.
Right.
So frustrating.
Right.
Got off course.
Got off course, went the wrong way, figured it out, got back on course.
So by the fourth race.
So by the end, right,
yeah.
I had the collective fastest time that year for the Grand Slam.
People started to notice who you were.
And I think it ended up being, it's still the 8th or 9th fastest total Grand Slam time. And if you count Nick Clark, who also, right, his time certainly was faster than mine. But yeah, it's still, I'm proud of, right, that effort to go from first 100 miler, and your first 400s are the Grand Slam. Yeah.
So then you go to Kona and you race Kona. By the time you get there, you're like, whatevs.
Certainly enjoying it.
You're like, whatever.
Yeah.
Been here, done that. No big deal. I just need to finish.
It was fun.
Okay. So what's your fastest Kona time?
My fastest time.
9 something.
Yeah, 9:54.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a good day.
That was a great day.
At Kona, that's a really good day. Awesome. How many 100 milers have you run?
I'm going on 13.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've averaged about since 2012, 2 to 3 a year.
2 to 3
since
a year.
then.
Which one's your favorite?
I've enjoyed all of them. Right, Western States I've done 5 times. Right, knock on wood, I'll be at Western States in 2 weeks.
Yes. We'll have to track you on
Toeing
that
the
one.
line for that, for my 6th time. Thank you, Jolbo, for the sponsor slot.
Actually, I
this
think
year.
this will actually come out just after that.
Okay,
so,
all right.
Yeah, so you completed.
So June 23rd.
June 20. Yes.
Yeah.
You will have completed yet another 100 miles.
Yes. And then in September, Tour de Gens in Italy. So that's 205 miles.
What?
Yes. So this will be significantly longer than anything else I've done. So minimum 3 nights continuous.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hold the phone. Have you run many races over 100 miles yet?
No,
Okay.
this will be my first.
So you decided, what the hell? I'm just going to double it.
Well, last year I did TDS, which is one of the UTMB sister races, and that started in Courmayeur, Italy, and finished in Chamonix.
Okay.
And Courmayeur is absolutely beautiful.
Is that all mountain racing?
It is.
Yeah.
It is all
At
mountain
altitude,
racing.
right?
Not high altitude, but
Okay.
right, you're definitely at altitude. And the tour starts the week after UTMB, and certainly intriguing to get the opportunity to push my boundaries. And Meredith is all on board to come and crew for that and drive around. Yeah, northwestern Italy.
I would think that would be a good deal.
For a couple of days.
From what I've heard, it's actually adventures in crewing. Because you're you have to be strategic about your sleeping.
Yeah.
Also navigating
Yeah.
the mountains for multiple days.
Oh.
So that's going to be
Right,
fantastic.
so it's
I
not
can't
just
wait.
like crew and know where you're going and be done.
So are you running with a pack so that
Yes.
you can sleep? Is it like when I interviewed Mallory when she did the FKT of
Right.
Wonderland, they took all their own stuff. They self-crewed. Do you have to do that for this?
There is mandatory kit that you have to have, but there are life bases every 50 kilometers or so
bases.
where they have cots and places to sleep and aid stations. And then there are refuges with nominal amount of aid station support. So, figuring out, that's going to be the challenge of figuring out when and where to sleep and for how long, and minimize the amount of sleep to keep moving effectively
Okay.
for the whole time.
When is this race?
September.
Okay.
Yeah, late September.
How are you training for that?
Well, that'll start after Western States.
So after June 23rd, which it'll be. So let's say middle of July, you start training for this thing. Are you going to be... Do you run in the middle of the night here in Austin? Do you go out for midnight runs?
Some of my training is early morning, but September or July, planning a trip to the Collegiate Peaks Loop in Colorado. Okay. So about 160 miles with our friend Nick in Boulder, who's done it before and has done the tour before. So we'll get a little taste of what that is and test out gear and supplies and things like that, and sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
And more hiking. So there'll be more hiking involved with a pack and poles, and then running the flats and downhills. So
I interviewed Andrew Willis.
Yes.
You know Andrew? Another ultra crazy person. So that just kind of reminds me of that, because he goes with when he races Ram or these 1,000-mile races, it's days without sleep on a bike.
Right.
But similar, because you're on your feet. I mean, similar.
And in some gnarly terrain and
yeah.
going off the edge and off the cliff and things like that.
Yeah, collapsing, being delirious, walking, getting lost, just getting lost. So how do you prepare for stuff like that?
That's going to be the fun part of the
practicing.
Summer. Yeah, that's going to be some practicing and bring me back to some of my Army roots of being out in the field for continuous operations and
I would
test
bet
that out.
I would bet that Army experience and Army life, it would help a lot, tremendously.
I hope so.
Recalling all that and like how already how you felt during those times with sleep deprivation. That's crazy. I'm so excited. 205 miles? Mm-hmm. What's with the extra 5? I mean, really, did they just had to do
that? what 330 kilometers and 24,000 meters of climbing and descending. So 75,000 feet of climbing and descending, plus or minus.
One-way loop?
It's a counterclockwise loop in the Aosta Valley. So starts and finishes in Courmayeur.
Multiple loops?
No, just one.
Okay.
Counterclockwise.
So there's no way to bail out early. Like, come back to camp and say, no, I can't do it.
We have your crew at the different life bases, but hopefully not.
Okay. Sounds really awesome. Are we going to be like blogging and doing photojournaling during any of this, or just you out there with your slide flip phone?
There'll definitely be. I know they do really, really good tracking. So the European races do some phenomenal tracking of where you're at, and probably have some video coverage at the life bases and things like that. And my social media coordinator, Meredith, will keep the rest of the world informed of my whereabouts. And
that is crazy. All right. My head's reeling, but that's super cool. Okay, so that's what's next. And then are we taking time off of 200 miles after that, or no?
Yeah, to be determined what 2008 or 2019 holds. Yeah, hopefully, knock on wood, I'll get into Hard Rock 100. And that I'll definitely put in for Hurt 100, which is in January in Hawaii. And hopefully the Rocky Mountain Slam. That's what
Rocky Mountain Slam.
Right, the year that I get into Hard Rock, I'd like to do the Rocky Mountain Slam, and no Texan has ever done the Rocky Mountain Slam.
What is the Rocky Mountain Slam?
So Bighorn. So it's 4 of the 5: Bighorn, Hard Rock 100, Leadville, Wasatch, and the Bear. So there are 5 in there, and you have to do Hard Rock and the Bear, and then you get to pick 2 of the other 3, but I'd like to do all 5. So
okay, I'm sure he'll do that.
Right.
Whatever.
Hopefully.
You just ran 205 miles. It should be nothing.
I haven't done it yet,
but you will. All right, so let's talk about some of your sponsors real quick.
Yes.
I know, like you said, that was your first time after your first 100 mile. Your second 100 miler, you ran in Hokas, but now Hoka One or Hoka sponsors you.
Yes.
And how'd that come about?
That came about in late 2013, and just building relationships with the team there and coming into the sport. I had just placed 8th at Western States in 2013. So 2013, I had won or earned a spot into Western States at Bandera, 100K.
Okay.
So, and then got 8th at Western States in June of 2013. Wow. So got an automatic spot for 2014. So yeah, parlayed my fitness from the Grand Kona Slam into Bandera of 2013. So that worked out really well.
With the Leadville, how many belt buckles do you have? Do they do the belt buckles?
They do.
Run?
They do.
How many do you have?
A lot, but there are plenty of people that have way more than I have.
Like, you don't have enough belts to cover it.
Only have one waist. You still have one waist.
So who do you look up to in the ultra running world? Who are your idols?
For sure, right. Carl Meltzer, right, the speed goat. He's been running ultras for many, many, many more years than I have, and has won, more races than I've even done. So he's certainly, somebody to look forward or to look up to,
right,
as far as his longevity and his performance. And he's just been getting smarter and smarter as the races that he picks. And he's going after the 50 to 59 age group record at Western States this year.
Wow.
Yeah, because he just turned 50 this year.
Wow. So that was going to be one of my next questions, was like, is there a point where you kind of age out and you can't do the mileage anymore?
I don't think so. If you look at what Carl's done at the age of 50, that's pretty awesome. Hey, that's some really good inspiration.
So there's hope for me yet.
There is hope. There is hope. And who else? Dave Mackey, right? He was an inspiration early on and continues to be right after his amputation of his leg, after his trail running accident. But to return to trail running is just phenomenal. And to continue to inspire people to get out there and do the best that they can.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
That is amazing. That's huge. That's huge. So these people are your mentors. Are they also your competition? Do you have a rival?
I don't think I have a rival. Certainly trail running, you're going out against the course and your own personal experience and your time and all of that. And of course, right at Western States, you want to go top 10 and you want to do well in your age group. So there's those carrots that are out there.
Good carrots.
They are good carrots.
Good carrots. So in all these 1,300 milers that you've done, what dark places have you been to? Like, how did you get out of it? Because it has to happen.
Yeah.
You don't have
no
13 great 100 milers.
Right. Yeah, you go through struggles, and certainly my runs at Run Rabbit Run and Steamboat Springs have not been that stellar. And the thing that keeps when things are tough, that hey, there are people in the world that certainly have rougher, tougher lives, and they're not volunteering for those tough lives, that I'm putting myself in these situations voluntarily, right? Self-induced suffering. And that feeling of, hey, other people have it much harder than I do, that I owe it to them, I owe it to myself to keep going and to persevere for as long as it takes to get to the finish line. And so many people and companies that have supported me, supported Meredith and us in this journey, that you owe it to them to bring forth your best performance and keep going. And at the same time, not put your health at risk.
Right.
And there's something to be said for that. So, and be great ambassadors and welcome others to the sport. our involvement with Team Red, White, and Blue in the past, and going forward, Band of Runners, connecting veterans with the trail running community is something that has really been a valuable experience and a way to give back of all of the blessings that trail running has given us. That, hey, if we can just connect one veteran positively with trail running and help them in their journey, then it's been worth it.
Yeah.
And so that's been really, really great.
Is connecting Red, White, and Blue and the veterans with your trail running and all that, is that why you do push-ups at the finish line?
Yeah, so
tell me about that.
Yeah, that started that, hey, right, doing push-ups, right, something from the military, and you can always just give a little bit more. Right at the end of a race, there's just a little bit more that you always have. So, doing push-ups started as a way to give credit to the veterans, right, that were serving in Iraq, Afghanistan. At the time, my brother-in-law, Ryan, who's now retired from the Army, thank you, Ryan, for your 20 years of service.
Wow.
As a way of saying thanks and honoring those that have continued to serve. And, keep this country free and fight for the things that we value.
So do you do that at the end of every race?
I try to.
I mean, I saw it in person and at the Austin Marathon, which we're going to mention here real quick. But so even at the end of these 100-milers, you're dropping down, and how many push-ups are you knocking?
Yeah, God willing. I do 10 plus 1 for the Army Ranger in the sky. So 11 is the standard number.
So no matter how tired you are, you're going to knock out 11 push-ups.
If capable, yes.
If capable. If not, you're just going to nose plant into the dirt, and somebody's going to pick you up. That's awesome. So, okay, so on top of all this, you, I know that you are basically, I think you're the leader of the Pacers for the Austin Marathon.
Yes, this will be the second year as Pace Team Captain for the Austin Marathon. Okay. Coming up in 2019 in February.
Yeah.
And Meredith and I have been pacers for going on 10 years or so, on and off.
So marathon's nothing to only 26.2 miles. Easy.
And it's a great way to give back. Another great way to give back to the running community. And if you haven't signed up for either the Austin Half Marathon or the Marathon, you definitely should consider it, because the new course this year in February was fantastic. And
was it, in your opinion, was it as good? Was it as harder, easier?
It was equally as challenging.
Yeah.
And you got to see the 3-hour group.
3-hour group?
Yep.
I was going to say
so we got to see more of East Austin, which was fantastic. And yeah, what's not to love about your hometown marathon?
I know, they're great. They're great. So have you always done the 3-hour marathon, or have you bounced around on your times on that?
A couple years I was pacing the women's Olympic B time, which was at the time either 2:47 or 2:46.
Okay.
On some of the pre-Olympic trials years.
So that would be next year though, right? 2019.
Starting to, but Austin, that was back when Austin was point to point.
Right.
So we'd start up north and generally go downhill. So lately we haven't been getting a lot of runners looking to punch their qualifying time. Normally they'll go to Houston, right? A little bit flatter and faster. But if there's a need, and I'm in shape, or I can certainly find somebody who can help you run your B standard or your A standard if that's what you're looking for.
That it's really fun to watch you guys, and thank you for when we did the Austin Marathon special. You helped me.
That was great.
Sent over a bunch of pacers to talk with, and man, some of those guys, I didn't know any of them, and then I'm sitting there talking to them. I'm like, so how many marathons you run? They're like, I think this will be 56 or 108, and yeah, I normally run a 220. I'm like, holy shit, who are you?
With local, very talented local pacers.
It's
so great. They are so passionate, and I'll probably get about one to two emails a week of prospective pacers who express interest in pacing if there's a slot available. So last year we added 2 pace groups, and now we do every 5 minutes between 3 hours and 4 hours. And then we have a couple of pace groups in between 4 and 5 hours.
It's extremely helpful for anybody running the race. And as a coach, it's extremely helpful. As the coach, I can say, okay, find this pacer and find that pacer and stay between.
Yes.
Don't lose them.
Having that moving finish line is very valuable.
Yeah.
So we're thrilled to be part of it. And High Five Events does a great job now, right? They took ownership over from Colony Sports, and that transition is just going to be better and better each year.
Yeah. Yeah. And the new course is cool, like you said. Maybe I'll get out there. Maybe my new knees will handle it.
Amen.
Okay, I'm going to be cheering for you for these next few races. And the cheers with the bourbon. Yes, salute. This was tasty. Yes, I'm going to become a bourbon drinker. It's going to be awesome. Thank you so much, Paul.
You're welcome.
It
Thank
was
you,
fun.
Erin.
And thanks, Meredith, for popping in.
Thanks, honey.